Welcome back, everyone. My name is Kenneth Ellington, and today's special guest is actually Courtney. So Courtney is my co-instructor. You've probably seen her on some of the other episodes. I will be interviewing her today, getting her backstory, and seeing how she got inside cybersecurity. How are you doing today, Courtney?
Doing pretty well. It's been a busy week, but thankful to be alive, thankful to be well, and I appreciate you for having me.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So the first question I normally ask our guests is, why did you want to get inside cybersecurity in the first place?
Long story. So starting in 2019, originally I went to school for a whole different background. I was going to school for physical therapy. I was on track for the physical therapy at University of Maryland, College Park. And I was in for my bachelor's. While going through my program, I had the opportunity to work as a physical therapist aide. So following behind the physical therapist itself, having that opportunity to gain more experience. But like everywhere else around the world, COVID happened. And once COVID happened, it changed a few things. I was unfortunately laid off, and I really wanted to find something that was within my interests, and technology has always been in my interest. So I took the leap of faith, wanted to actually pivot over into cybersecurity, and that was like the starting point. So it's actually been an exciting time. I'm definitely happy and grateful to actually be within cybersecurity. Um, and literally from there, it has been a great learning experience.
That's pretty awesome to see. I know a lot of people during COVID found out that their career choices weren't the ones that they wanted to make. So it's pretty interesting to see you pivot from that towards cybersecurity. And in that specific journey, what's been the hardest part about pivoting from a different career into cybersecurity from your perspective?
The most challenging part would be setting a path, um, finding different tools to actually study. I know for me, once I set my mind to something, I'm doing my research, I'm looking up um, what's the hottest topics, what are the things that are going to be able to help me pivot into the role. And when I first started off, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know how to navigate within the world of IT and cybersecurity. So starting from there, I was getting on Twitter. I think that was like the starting point for me, getting on Twitter, um, actually following different people who were in IT, cybersecurity, having different topics, and really taking notice to what is going to be able to help me within my career. I actually came across Tavion. For those who don't know, Tavion is really big on IG and as well as Twitter. And the content that he was constantly posting out was very helpful. And I know once I started to read more information of what the content he was placing on Twitter, on YouTube, I started to get more of a feel of what I needed to do. And from there, it was important that, you know, making the investment, putting into place where I put my money where my mouth is, basically, and taking that opportunity to enroll into a program was definitely helpful for me. I know for a lot of people, getting into IT or cybersecurity can be very difficult, but for my experience per se, just having that opportunity to do a lot of research has helped me tremendously.
What is that? You mentioned you did some programs inside of tech space. What programs were there specifically that you did?
The first one that I ended up starting off with was O-line security. So with O-line security, it was about a 3-month program. You were able to obtain training for Security Plus. As we know, Security Plus is one of the top industry certifications for cybersecurity. And during that time, I had a live instructor from literally Monday through Friday. Shout out to Toby. Toby is definitely an awesome instructor for that program. And throughout that time period, I was going to class, doing live lectures, learning the content of CompTIA Security Plus. And then with that program, we had the opportunity to also do like live labs, like live simulation labs. So that was a great way for me to actually see more of the hands-on experience or hands-on learning that I will actually be doing on the job. So that was actually pretty helpful. That was like my first program that I enrolled in. Second program that I ended up enrolling into was Ellington Cyber Academy. Shout out to Kenneth Ellington for taking me under his wing as, for one, my mentor and as well as a student throughout the program. This was actually the starting program. And within the time period, it was about 7 to 8 weeks per se when I first started at ECA. So we were doing more so of learning SIM. For those who do not know, SIM is a popular tool that is used within the SOC environment or within cybersecurity itself. SIM stands for Security, Information, and Event Management. And while we were in class, we had the opportunity to work with Splunk ES, Splunk Enterprise, and building out dashboards, reports. And the coolest thing that I would actually say for ECA that a lot of programs do that they actually do not have is that hands-on experience. Within ECA, had the opportunity to build out a end of the program presentation and actually present in front of hiring managers and managers from different companies of what we have learned within the program and throughout our experience. So those are actually two programs that I ended up joining, O-Line Security, and then as well as ECA, Ellington Cyber Academy.
I appreciate that shout out, Courtney. Yeah, I would definitely say hands-on experience is super important. It's important to have theoretical knowledge as well. So you're actually able to explain it towards somebody. But you actually need to be able to break concepts down, talk to people about it, and actually be able to do it. That's one of the things we try to stress here at ECA. I feel that's lacking in a lot of different programs. So when we built the firm, I want to make sure that was implemented in everything that we did. So I appreciate that you've had a good experience with it so far.
Definitely. You definitely have to get a pat on the back and a shout out to you because you definitely have helped me tremendously. Like a lot of times when I have conversations with people, they're like, how did you get to where you are? What were the things that you have done to be able to, go from IT to cybersecurity in a short amount of time? And there are so many things that I always recommend for people to do. 3 things I would name: networking, finding a mentor, and creating a game plan. Those are the 3 things I definitely recommend to start right off the bat with. Finding a mentorship would definitely help because then you are speaking to a particular professional, someone is higher than you per se in ranks, who knows a little bit more about the field, and they can give their perspective on what to do, who to talk to, as well as avoiding specific mistakes that you don't necessarily have to run into. So that is something that you provided for me and the other people who I've talked to within my network. Second thing, of course, LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. I found myself highly on LinkedIn, whether it was making posts, speaking to people, reaching out to people, and as well as just getting out of my comfort zone. For those who know, I am a person who is an extrovert, but then sometimes I can be an introvert. And having that opportunity to network on LinkedIn has been wonderful because I had the opportunity to just meet different folks, whether if it's from different states, different fields, and we kind of grow a bond to be able to share particular interests that is actually outside of cybersecurity. And lastly, game plan. Once you set a game plan from all of those things, you put your ducks in a row, everything should fall into place specifically for yourself.
Specifically on the LinkedIn part and networking part, how imperative has it been from your experience, Courtney?
Can you actually say that question again?
Yeah, I was saying for the LinkedIn and networking part, how important or imperative have that been to your success so far?
A lot. Tremendous. LinkedIn has opened many doors and opportunities, specifically with joining Blacks in cybersecurity, meeting you.
Yeah, I think that's how we met initially.
Yeah, actually, we ended up meeting in Blacks in cybersecurity, and I found Blacks in cybersecurity on LinkedIn first. So the only thing that I can think of really is that if I did not join LinkedIn, I don't know where, honestly, I don't know where I would be. There's just so many things and so many avenues that I could have taken, but I'm glad that joining LinkedIn and also joining Twitter was very helpful for me within my career.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, especially for LinkedIn. That's how I met you. That's how I met most of my students and clients. That's how I met most of my partners and business partners for that. So definitely super helpful. And I suggest towards all our students that they try to get probably on LinkedIn, because that's the most professional and biggest platform to try to network and grow yourself. It can be kind of hard at first, because there will be times, probably the first couple months, where nobody listens towards you. No one likes your post, no one talks to you, no one comments on anything. And you feel like you're yelling inside the void. But it takes time, right? It's just like anything else in life, just consistency and try to improve yourself with it over time, and people will start to notice you. That's probably the biggest thing.
That is the biggest thing. Literally for about 6 to 7 months, I was building up my brand on LinkedIn, speaking to people, adding in posts. And this is where I first started. I know when I was adding my posts like every other day, I was getting about, 1 or 2 likes or reactions towards my posts. And, it can be a little intimidating, or the feeling of no one is listening or watching you. But the more and more that you continuously do it and you're reaching out to people, you're putting yourself out there. That's always the biggest thing that I'll always stress: put yourself out there. The more and more that you put yourself out there, the more people that you'll attract. And that's, like you said, that's anything in life. Kind of going backwards to when I first started O-line security. And when I first got into IT as a help desk specialist, I was posting different labs. Like, I was recording my labs. I was going over what I was learning within my labs and explaining directly how I was able to piece things together. Because at the end of the day, within IT, cybersecurity, any field, it's all about problem solving. How do I take this problem? How do I solve it from A, B, and C, and break it down in order to, either fix the system or explain to folks how do you do things. So putting those labs on LinkedIn and frequently posting, commenting on different people's posts, reaching out to recruiters, taking that time out throughout the day to just consistently add on to my profile was able to actually help me to obtained my first role into IT within 7 weeks at Online Security. And then from there, it was history. The rest is history.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome to hear, Court. It takes a lot of work, like anything. I think it's an overlooked skill, being able to network and communicate with people in this industry. But if you want to get high in this field, you need to have it.
Of course.
So then my next question to you would be, what is your actual job role, Courtney, and what do you do in normal day to day?
My actual job role is a SOC phishing specialist analyst. Within the role, we help to triage different, whether if it's like different emails or events, incidents, alerts, particularly based on phishing. So for phishing, a lot of people know about phishing to be where you have different attackers. They're using different avenues to either perpetrate or manipulate sensitive data and taking that data to exploit. So exploit basically is taking that information and whether they're inquiring for sensitive information to install malware that can either be Trojan, virus, worms, and oftentimes for ransomware. So it's a pretty cool job. I love my job. I love my team. Shout out to Expel for my hiring managers, Christina, Harania, and Simon. They have definitely welcomed in with open arms, and I'm excited to actually be on that team. Work for Expel. Expel is actually a SOC ops service. So we cater to MDR, remediation, phishing, and for threat hunting for different customers.
So in that, what's the hardest aspect of your job that you normally deal with from your perspective, Courtney?
That's like the trickiest thing because every day you're going to get something in. I actually just started in May, so I'm going on 2 months. Happy, gotta give myself a pat on the back because I'm super happy about that. It's been 2 months. It's definitely been a challenging 2 months because I'm being placed into this role where I'm learning. I'm getting exposed to different things on a daily basis. I'm finding my groove. I'm finding my workflow, how to, take these alerts, triage them, and also deal with, different tactics that attackers are trying to take the information and then use it to their advantage. So keeping up with different alerts on a day-to-day basis, it constantly changes. I may see something that I'm familiar with the day before. I may see something that it's totally brand new. And when those times do arise, luckily I have an awesome, great team to actually ask questions, to give me feedback, give me tips, so that I can move forward and learn what I need to learn on a day-to-day basis. And from that information too, when I'm not on a day-to-day job, I'm taking my time out to read, listen to podcasts, tune in so I can continuously educate myself on a day.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear, different, struggles or different parts of their jobs that they try to fix and solve. From my perspective, that's always normally the customer, which is the hardest part for my job. I'm normally able to figure everything else out, but human beings are very tricky people. So that's always the most difficult part for what I do. But I'm a consultant, so it's a little bit different.
One of the things I always tell myself is that you may not know everything, and it's okay. Sometimes we feel as though we have to know everything. And honestly, when I went into the job, I was like, okay, I'm going to get this down in a certain amount of time period, and I'm just going to finish things out quickly. But for me, that wasn't the case. And I had to remember that I have to take my time. time and practice, and as you continuously practice over and over, you'll come to understand. You'll come to understand as far as what you knew before, um, what is to come, and having that opportunity to tell. I had to remember to tell myself that, you know, with me being a overachiever, I'm definitely someone who loves to set goals.
Yes, that's for sure.
Um, right? Thanks. Always wanted to set goals, wanting to achieve what I wanted in a specific time period. But in this case, when I was going through training, even now, reminding myself that it's progress. It takes time. You may not know everything, you know something, and the worth and the motivation that I have for myself to continuously learn will always put me in a place where more opportunities will actually come in.
Yeah, I can definitely attest towards that as well. That's one of my, I guess, biggest issues is I have the highest expectations for myself. Sometimes those aren't really realistic. So when things don't always go my way, it can be kind of hard for me sometimes as well. So just trying to level set everything is probably the biggest thing I tell people. Like you won't become a CISO overnight. It's not how it works. You won't become a multimillionaire overnight. That's
And
not how
nothing
any,
does.
yeah. Just again, consistency, trying to improve your processes, like anything. I know it sounds very boring and unoriginal, but that's really just how it works. So if you're able to do that, you'll probably outlast most people.
It's always being realistic with yourself. You have to be realistic to creating that plan for yourself, and also remembering we are human at the end of the day. Things always come up. Life is a roller coaster, whether if that's dealing with your mental health, if it's family, if it's friends, if it's outside things, something will happen. And you always have to remember to take that time out for yourself. How do you create for myself when I speak this, I had to create um a time and also days where I take out for myself to recharge. I'm really big on recharging. I'm really big on mental health. Having those days where either if I'm going to the gym, I love going to the gym because I have the opportunity to just clear my mind and also feel good mentally and physically. And outside of that, creating something that I'm interested in loving. I love going outside. I love being in nature. So finding something that is going to be beneficial for you only helps your mental and your physical space, and emotionally and spiritual as well.
Completely agree to that. So my next question from pivoting towards that, Courtney, what would be the best advice you would give someone wanting to go down your path?
Best advice. The three things that I mentioned previously before, which was networking, putting yourself out there, getting getting uncomfortable. When you are constantly in a comfortable state, there it kind of slows you down from the things that um, should be coming into your life. So getting uncomfortable with things relating to, going to different events, reaching out to different managers or recruiters, and also just whether if that is enrolling into a program, boot camp, degree, taking that time out for yourself. That's one of the biggest things. And then, of course, I mentioned finding a mentor and creating a game plan. Those are the three things that I always recommend to folks.
Yeah, I would say getting was it getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I think it's
Right,
a phrase people use. It's honestly one of the biggest things. And people like love the idea of to be something, but then when the actual application of actually putting in that work comes, they don't really want
right,
to do it right. Like everyone wants to be in the NBA, everyone wants to be LeBron James or Stephen Curry, but to put in the decades of work that they put in to get towards their spot, no one wants to do that right.
right.
Same with cybersecurity, right? Everyone wants to be in our shoes, right? Everyone wants to have our careers, make as much money as we do. Then when I tell them how much work it actually is required to do that, no one wants to actually do it, right? They come up with all the different excuses. I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the money, the resources for it. But people that are successful always find a way to get it done, right? Going back to your same problem solving. If I don't have the time, I make the time, right? I find out which ways I can sacrifice, what things I can do to make sure I'm able to reach my goals. That's kind of how life works. So those are able to do that are successful, and those aren't that are not. That's the biggest thing that I found out through my career.
I certainly agree. Taking, we all make time for certain things that we want to make time for. And if it is important to you, you'll make the time for it. Whether if it's setting out, even if it's 15 to 30 minutes throughout your day of practicing or just reading something or listening to a podcast. A lot of times I find myself listening to podcasts when I'm in the car and I'm riding to somewhere. That is a lead way for yourself for you to be able to, constantly learn. So the more and more that you constantly do that each and every day throughout the week, you're doing something for yourself. You're making yourself more available to what you set yourself out for.
Yeah, I remember when I started studying for cybersecurity. I think it was during COVID.
Mhm.
I think I literally unplugged my TV because I was trying to study for something. So I didn't. I literally would not watch TV on the weekdays. I refused to.
So
Um,
that's a good thing. That is pretty
yeah,
good.
it was. I mean, it was hard because I like watching my shows, but there was a specific goal that I wanted to reach, right? So that's what I had to sacrifice. So if that meant not watching TV during those 6 hours during that 5 day period for a couple months, and that's worth it, right?
Right.
And now I can watch TV whenever I want to because I made the initial sacrifice.
Right.
Or I can go travel or do whatever I want to. So
Yeah, I know when I made the sacrifice for those 6 to 8 months, I was limiting amount of times where I was going out, um, and kind of more so of like not going. I wouldn't say I was like hermit per se, but I was being mindful of how much time that I was designated to things that I wasn't really um, within me getting to where I needed to be. So as far as Instagram, I'm on Instagram here and there. So cutting that down, watching TV. Um, I'm really big into anime. So I think during that time I was actually watching Demon Slayer, I believe. So I was kind of cutting that down and also some of the other shows that I was really interested in, and kind of like really balancing out my time where, I set a specific time to study. After I'm studying, if I had some downtime, I would do those specific things. But then also, I was also working. So having all of those three things put together, it's all about finding time, balancing.
yeah, and I like to tell people everyone really isn't your friend. You'll find out really quickly when you're in these, I would say, challenging times. So that
Mhm.
some people will get you, some people won't, and people that don't get you or don't want to get you, cut them out of your lives. Period. Either people are for what you're doing to try to better yourself and your family, or they're not. And if they're not, you don't need them in your lives. I cut out a lot of people during college because they weren't down for what I was doing. It had to be done. So it is what it is, or it is what it was, however you want to phrase it. Um, I honestly don't regret it. When I told my parents that, they're like, it's kind of mean, kind of. I'm like, I have to do what I have to do, mom. So
It's all
it's
about setting those boundaries too.
yeah,
You know, it's really big on boundaries. I know, once you have a good support system, that is actually another thing that I would definitely recommend to have. Having a great support system where you have accountability partners, whether if it's your friends, your family, your teacher, your pastor, someone who you can go to in a time where you either, just want to conversate or, have those talks. Letting them know what your goals are, letting them know what you strive out to do and really following. And we have those times where you know we have a specific goal and we may fall off, I had I had those times where um, I was studying for specific things and I fell off, and you and I would have conversations, and it would just like the light bulb would go off, and I'm like, okay, I got to do this to be able to get this done, especially if at the end of the week I know that I have a specific deadline. So having having a support system, having someone to keep you accountable, responsible, you have to always remember those things, so that it can be able to take you further.
Perfectly said, Court. Perfectly said. So my next question for you is, do you use a SIM platform inside of your company? And if so, what's your favorite one?
So we actually use CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is actually pretty cool. Um, within We also use Splunk ES for us, as a phishing specialist. We don't use the Splunk ES, but there is actually other. Actually, let me actually go back on there. We actually do use them, um, for Splunk, and specifically my most favorite one to use is going to be Splunk ES because I'm more familiar with that one. Within teaching and as a student, that was something that we were using on a day-to-day basis. So that one is going to be my top one.
And then you said that you use Crowdtrack as your XDR.
Yes.
Okay. How do you like using Crowdtrack?
Crowdstrike is pretty cool. I'm kind of navigating more through of its usage. One of the cool things that I can actually mention is, when we are using specific um, going through specific alerts, we are able to see different avenues to be able to take to help to triage the alert. So that is pretty cool to me.
Gotcha. I've only used CrowdStrike for training purposes. I never used it in production environment yet. Um, I've used Defender in production environment, and then which other one? Not Sentinel-1. I think those are the only two I've ever really used for XDR. I think maybe Carbon Black as well. Now I think that's owned by VMware. Those are a couple of the endpoint solutions I've used before.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think the more and more that, being as an instructor, understanding how Splunk ES works and as well as CrowdStrike is very helpful. I know as a student, having that opportunity before getting this role, learning, what a SIM is, what an XDR is definitely been beneficial for my current role now.
Yeah, one of our goals is start to implement some more of those solutions inside of our technology set for the program to get students even more experience with it. So be on the lookout for that. And then Court, my last question to you would be, do you use Password Manager? And if so, which one?
Definitely. I use password, one password, which is pretty cool because my job actually offers it for free. So within on my job, I get to use it on my different devices. I get to use it. I have it on my phone, particularly because I'm always, going to different accounts and making sure that I have a password manager because I have so many accounts and I don't like consistently changing my password, especially if I do forget. I have my password manager, which is simple, it's easy, it's affordable, and it keeps everything organized.
Yeah, I use Dashline for mine. I was asked all over guess that because in me, it's one of the easiest way you can protect yourself.
It
I
is.
mean, there are faults with like any technology, but I would rather use that than have somebody who is not tech savvy try to write down all their passwords and memorize that. 'Cause I feel there's more pitfalls inside of that than using a central place to store your password. So that's why I use Dashline, because I really don't feel like writing down all my passwords or try and memorize that.
Right. Right. I know some people, you know, they either write it in a booklet, they write it in a journal. If you take that journal with you outside of your home, and say, for example, if you do leave it at the coffee shop or McDonald's or the library, you have your password exposed to anyone who can actually take your information and do harm with it, possibly. But you know, it's better to take precaution now. The more and more that you come to understand that, you know, keeping your information enclosed, and having your information stored in a specific way will help you down the line, whether if it's, you know, dealing with money or just dealing with your accounts per se.
Yeah, it's also a lot more convenient as well. But I
Hmm.
log in essentially stored, and I log in at any one of my devices, and it's automatically there, saving so much time. It really
So
does.
easy. Right.
But that's all the questions I had for you today, Court. So I appreciate everyone for coming out. Stay on after the call, and so we'll answer some of your questions that you may have for Courtney. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Stop recording.